Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. So glad you're here today. We've got some important things to talk about. We are going to be talking about gut health for good health. The gut, as you've probably all heard, is far more important than we ever realized. And my guest today, Dr. Aliza Cicerone, who is a naturopathic oncologist, is going to be educating us about why is that gut so important. So welcome. As most of you know, I'm Paula Shaw. I am your host. I am also an author. I have 3 books: Chakras, The Magnificent 7, Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. And that is truly, although that's my smallest book, it's one of my favorites because it is so important for so many people. And it's so important as we try to support each other during a time when, as far as I'm concerned, everybody on the planet is grieving. Because there is nobody, down to the smallest child, who hasn't suffered some kind of loss during this pandemic. So I think it's more important than ever that we all really have a good, clear understanding of what helps and what doesn't help when we're speaking to people who have dealt with emotional pain and loss. So that book, Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say, and Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And Chakras, The Magnificent 7 are all available on Amazon. And I highly urge you to grab a copy of those, especially for the times we're living through. But in the meantime, what you might want to do is go to my website, paulashaw.com, and you can grab the free gift, which is a little ebook of 20 things to say and not to say to people in emotional pain. It's a great cheat sheet that you're going to want to have in your glove box, in your purse, in your briefcase, because these conversations are coming up, aren't they, guys? And you don't know where you're going to run into somebody who has just suffered a loss. And again, as I reminded everybody when I did a show on grief a couple of weeks ago, grief is not just something that happens to us when a death has occurred. Grief is the normal, natural response to any loss. And as I said, I just don't think there's anybody on the planet right now that hasn't dealt with some kind of loss during this pandemic. And so we need to be there for each other. We need to have competency and confidence that we know the right kinds of things to say. Because guess what happens if we don't feel that? We don't show up. We don't make the call. We aren't there for our friends and family who need us. So don't let that be you. Be the person who knows that you know the right thing to say, so you can sit there and you can be with someone who really needs you. So, in addition to being an author, I also have a practice as a life transition expert and coach. I work with people whose lives are going through the upheaval of change. And as we always say here on Change It Up Radio, our mission is to either bring to the spotlight people who are trying to change the world and make it a better place, or to bring you information to help make change easier and more productive for you. Because, as we always say, humans have a love-hate relationship with change. We need it. It helps us grow. It keeps life interesting. But oh, do we hate the discomfort of the unfamiliar. We like it familiar. We like it cozy. We like sameness on some level. We get bored with it after a while, but it's comfortable. It doesn't produce anxiety. It helps to keep us just feeling in a state of ease. Interesting, I was just speaking with a teenage client yesterday, and what she described to me was, I'm really pretty bored because every day is the same. And yet, the thought of going back to campus is pretty terrifying. Change, right? Change creates anxiety. Change creates discomfort. Change, takes us into a zone that's not the familiar. And think about it, guys, for over a year, the kids have been mostly in their bedrooms. Now they got to go to school, and especially in those teenage years, they've got to face each other. They got to worry about what they're wearing. They have to worry if they're cool. They have to worry if there's anybody to eat lunch with. There's all kinds of stuff coming up. And that's what's happening with our people. Same thing is happening with adults who are going back to work, who are going back to situations that they have been removed from for a while. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I think there's a certain level of angst about whether the clothes fit anymore. I have to tell you, one of my favorite commercials is that one where the woman goes, "It's time to start eating like you won't always be wearing an elastic waistband." I love that one. And oh my God, it's true. So the free offer of that document of 20 things to say and not to say is on paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com. And on that site, you can also get information about my work as a life transition coach. You can get information about me as a speaker. And you can also order the books through there, should you not want to go to Amazon. Also, if you go to changeitupradio.com, you can hear past shows there. You can also get information about being a guest or a sponsor on this show. And we have had some amazing guests over time. I mean, we're going on, my goodness. I just realized the other day I've been on the radio over 5 years. I mean, it's like, where did that time go? Of course, you remember originally I was doing transition radio, and then I started doing Change It Up radio. So let's get to what we're talking about today, the gut. As we've been talking about grief and loss and saying the right thing in the last couple of weeks on the show, it occurs to me that we really need to, that word gut comes in on so many levels, so handy, right? Like we have to be able to talk to people on a gut level. We're always hearing people say, go with your gut, right? There are all these sayings in our society and in our culture. Trust your gut. It knows what your heart hasn't figured out yet. I love that. Never discredit your gut. This one I loved. Here's a little saying. I hate being suspicious about things, but damn, that gut feeling is always right. So the gut has been glorified on many levels, right? It's like you can ignore a thought, but don't ignore that gut level feeling. We all value that on a certain level. But this time in history, we have now realized that the road to health is paved with good intestines. That was a quote by Sherry Rogers. I thought that was great. But there's a lot of truth to it. This gut thing affects our sleep, affects our immune system. It affects good digestion, improved mood, It may play a role in preventing cancer, and it certainly um, plays a role in just the comfort or the discomfort of eating food. So our gut is more important, I think we realize now, than we ever realized before. I read online when I was doing my research for this show, all disease begins in the gut. Now, I don't know if that's true, but the person who does know is going to be joining me in the next segment, and you better believe I'm going to ask her about that. There's so much that we don't know about the gut, so much that we're finding out. But isn't it funny that we've always used sayings like the ones that I was talking about earlier? We've talked about the gut. It's always been, I have that gut feeling, I got to trust my gut. We've been saying the words, and yet we didn't really know scientifically how important the gut was until recent years. And now we know there's something called a microbiome. We know that what is going on in there can affect our weight, can affect our mood, it can affect all sorts of things. So if this is news to you, you really want to stick around. You want to hear Dr. Aliza Cicerone give us the real answers because she works with this all the time. She's an expert and she has an amazing practice called Spark Health here in San Diego, where they do a lot of work with people to help get their guts on track. And you know, I think health has been a huge focus for all of us in the last year, hasn't it? Um, and you know what would it'd be interesting? I'm going to ask Dr. Cicerone if having a healthy gut gives you any sort of strength or strengthens the immune system when it comes to avoiding getting COVID. I don't know the answer to that. I just do know that never before in the history of the gut has everybody known it's as important as it is. So obviously, it's playing an important role, and there are things that we need to learn about it. So we are going to take just a little break right here. And when we come back, I will be introducing you to Dr. Aliza Cicerone. So stay with us. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I'm so glad you're here today, and you are going to be really glad you're here today too, because we are talking about gut health for good health. Never before have we known how important that gut is. And in this segment, my guest, Dr. Aliza Cicerone, is going to be teaching us exactly why this gut is so important. So before I bring her on, let me tell you just a little bit more about her. She is a doctor of naturopathic medicine, and she has a specialty in oncology. She was trained at the National College of Natural Medicine in Portland, Oregon, and holds a special board certification in naturopathic oncology. Oh my goodness, she's just got so much training and so many degrees. She did a residency at the Indiana University Goshen Center for Cancer Care. And she did extensive training there also in cardiology, gastroenterology, endocrinology. You know, if you can pronounce all these, you deserve to be called doctor. And dermatology, in addition to operating her own oncology practice. Today, she has a beautiful practice and really kind of an all-around wellness center called Spark Health in Solana Beach. And she also specializes in integrative care for cancer patients. So we really want to hear some more about that as well. So, Dr. Cicerone, please join us. We can't wait to ask you a million questions. There you are.
Well,
Good to see you. You've
ooh.
were a guest on my show a while back, and it's been too long. I'm so glad to have you here again.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So, I guess you heard me going on and on about the gut. And I have to claim really a pretty high level of ignorance when it comes to why the gut is so important. And we've all heard terms like leaky gut and microbiome, but I'm looking forward to you educating us about this today. So, first of all, why is the gut so important? I mean, yes, it's the center of the body, but it's sort of feeling like it's the center of everything.
Well, it is. And I mean, I think you were spot on when you talk about, immune system function, cancer prevention, how we feel day to day. Our gut, our GI tract plays a role in all of that. So having a healthy, what we call microbiome, having a good, healthy balance of good beneficial bacteria, some good beneficial yeast, it allows our gut to function properly. It allows protection against foreign invaders. So
Mm-hmm.
so much does our microbiome, plays a role in that. Our stomach acid level plays a role in that. How well we make digestive enzymes with our pancreas, how well we release bile with our gallbladder. That all plays a role in not only how the digestive cascade kind of works, from mouth to bottom, but
Mm-hmm.
also how we protect against foreign invaders entering our body and allowing them to kind of take up in our body, right? All
Mm-hmm.
of those are protective mechanisms to really keep things in check, right? We don't expect to be in a bubble.
Yeah.
We expect our body to be able to respond to different stimulus that's thrown at it and to be
Mhm.
able to respond appropriately so that we stay healthy and we stay strong.
So, how does the healthy gut improve or strengthen the immune system?
Well, we have all these really helpful bacteria in our digestive tract. And those bacteria are responsible for maintaining a nice balance in the gut, but also for digesting food, breaking it down, and allowing us to absorb nutrients from our food. So I think this is the biggest thing to me is we know vitamin C is important. We know iron is important. We know our B vitamins are important. We take those things in with our diet every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the nutrients that we need for healthy immune system function come from the foods that we eat for the most part.
Right.
But we have to have a digestive tract that allows us to absorb and assimilate and utilize those nutrients.
Oh, I see.
You have to have that whole, I always call it our digestive cascade, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about I'm a big dog rescue person, so I always think about my dogs, I pick up their bowls and they know they're gonna get fed. So
Yeah.
they're already anticipating food. They're starting to salivate and drool, right? We're supposed to be doing the same thing. We're
Mm.
supposed to be anticipating our food coming. We're supposed to be cooking our food and smelling our food. And in response to that, we start making saliva, right?
Uh-huh.
We're
Yeah.
not drawing on the floor like my dogs are, but they're making saliva, right? And so that salivary production starts kicking off our digestive cascade. And then we start chewing. We're making more saliva. We're creating
Right.
enzymes in the mouth that's breaking down the food in our mouth. It's also signaling to our stomach to tell it to get ready for food to come. So, in
Mm-hmm.
response to that, our stomach makes hydrochloric acid. Then we get our food into the stomach, it starts churning. We're making digestive enzymes and releasing them from the pancreas, bile. We're doing everything that starts kicking off kind of the internal environment.
Right.
We're also getting all the signals from our brain to our gut telling it how to have those muscular contractions to move everything through.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have this whole process going on in order for us to actually break down and get those nutrients out of the food that we're eating.
Yes.
Otherwise, it doesn't really do a whole lot to, to give us that nourishment
Exactly.
and nutrients for immune system function.
And what makes the difference? Why do some people seem to have the right bacteria and some people don't? What's that about?
Well, we all have such different health histories. I mean, especially I would say in this day and age, the thing I see the most of is people who have been on continual antibiotics for long periods of time,
Oh, yes.
or had chronic infections since childhood that were always treated. Even someone, you know, my sister, I did a lot of work with her in her gut because she had a lot of ear infections all through her infancy and her early
Mhm.
childhood. So she was on antibiotics all the time.
Absolutely.
So those types of things can kick it off. Different hereditary or genetic imbalances, like Crohn's disease or an inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis, that can alter uh,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the internal workings of our digestive tract and alter our bacterial balance. So there's a number of different things. It's really in our personal health history um, that kind of determine what our internal makeup looks like.
Mm.
It's modifiable, like that's the thing. It's totally modifiable. We just have to know what we're dealing with in order to know what we need to change.
Yes. So, we hear a lot these days that sugar is the enemy. Does sugar impact the gut biome, microbiome?
It can if it's done in a imbalanced way, right? And I get this
Mm.
question a lot too. We talked a little bit about integrative oncology. I
Mm-hmm.
get this question all the time. Does sugar feed cancer? Well, look, sugar feeds every cell in our body.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you and I are upright, alive, breathing, and talking and having this conversation right now. So it's not necessarily just sugar, it's the form of sugar. So if we're talking about healthy fruits and vegetables with natural sugars, not a problem at all because usually in nature,
Mm-hmm.
sugar comes with fiber, which is so important for our digestive tract.
Ah.
When we're looking at refined sugars, processed sugars, refined carbohydrates, that's where we're looking at just pure sugar, no real health benefit, no real
Mm.
nutrient value, right? Think about a bowl full of berries, versus a Snickers bar, right? That sugar in those berries, there's good fiber, there's tons of antioxidants,
Yes.
there's a lactic acid, there are all of these things that we need for our bodies to function properly and to help our immune system work correctly,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like a refined sugar or processed sugar. There's nothing there that's really beneficial health wise.
I see. So the fiber, when you combine the sugar with the fiber, then it's moving through the system better and it's not
Bring your
causing
blood sugar
whatever. Yeah,
down.
got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
It's
it
the
isn't even
food.
the amount of sugar, it's the kind of sugar that's more important, correct?
And what, yeah, and would say, I wouldn't tell somebody just eat fruit all day, right? There's
Yeah.
not a balance there. It's what we're eating those foods with. So I always say, if you're going to have anything um, that has any type of, sugar, carbohydrate, even natural forms, just make sure you're pairing it with extra good fiber, good healthy fat,
Mm-hmm.
protein, so if you're going to have, that handful of berries, great, have a handful of almonds with it or other nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just pair it well because that helps with blood sugar stability and it helps with it digesting and moving those foods through your gut too.
Right. Speaking of fats,
Yes.
I can remember when I was in my early 20s, fats were talked about as the enemy, especially if you were trying to lose any weight. Now there's keto around and there's all this other talk about fats. Are fats a good thing and are they affecting the microbiome in a good or a bad way?
Well, absolutely. I mean, everything that we eat in a good, healthy, natural form is beneficial to our gut and to our microbiome. So again, it's about, are we eating healthy fat from nuts and seeds and avocado and olive oil, right? Good, healthy, whole food fats, or
Mm-hmm.
are we eating, French fries
Yeah.
fried in the same oil over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that fat is healthy. I remember that too. When I was growing up, there was, the fat-free cookies that were all the rage, which was
Yes.
really just refined sugar. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that is healthy. Protein is healthy. Carbohydrates are healthy. It's all about the combination, the quantity, and the characteristics of that food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we combine those foods to help our bodies feel the best too. And that is different for every single person, right?
Yes.
There's people that feel fantastic on a plant-based diet. We have some people that feel fantastic when they have animal protein in their diet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's finding out what works for each individual person. And to me, it's really about the characteristics of those foods, right? So, animal protein isn't necessarily bad. Vegetables aren't necessarily good. Depends how they're grown, how they're raised, what they're fed, what they're sprayed with. There are so many different characteristics of our
Mm-hmm.
food,
Mm.
and that can change in a person's life. I was vegetarian for 12 years and vegan for 5 years.
Ah.
And now I eat animal protein in my diet, but I still have, a mostly plant-based diet, but I
Mm-hmm.
still have animal protein in it. So, what our bodies crave, what our bodies need, it changes. It's not going to be one way for our whole life. And I think that's
Oh, that's
Big part of
interesting.
gut health, right, is
Yes.
really learning how to trust our intuition with what our body's asking for and
Hmm.
being able to follow that, right? It's not overthinking it or obsessing about it. It's just
Yes.
listening to our bodies, um, and following our own kind of innate guidance with what works for us.
Oh, beautiful. We've got to take a break right now, Dr. Cicerone. But when we come back, I've got a million more questions. So we will be right back with Dr. Aliza Cicerone. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw and my guest today, Dr. Aliza Cicerone of Spark Health here in Solana Beach, right in San Diego. She is a naturopathic oncologist and she is just an expert at this whole thing about the healthy gut. And that's what we're talking about today. So, Dr. Cicerone, if I'm correct, and just as we were ending our last segment, you basically were saying there is no one size fits all when it comes to diet,
Right.
right? It's each body is unique. For some people, animal protein is great. For some people, a vegan way of life is great. But it isn't like one diet is so perfect, it's the right thing for everybody. Is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, you would never throw everybody on the same supplements. You would never tell everybody they need
Mm.
the same medication. So you can't tell everybody that they need the exact same diet. And look, you ask 100 people, 100 health professionals, what's the right nutrition plan? You're going to get 100 different answers.
Yes.
So I think that so much of that is based in opinion.
Mm.
It's based on what their beliefs are morally and ethically, and what their beliefs are medically. And I think that what we have to help our patients understand is that there isn't a one size fits all. Everybody has unique individual needs. Everybody's body chemistry is unique and individualized, and we have to really take that into account when we're talking about, what's the optimal way to eat. I would say, across the board, healthy fats, healthy carbohydrates, healthy sources of protein, whatever they may be, without caloric restriction. That's really the way to eat, eating a whole foods diet, right?
Mm.
So you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. Eat things in their most natural forms. I always
Mhm.
joke with my patients, chickens don't lay egg whites, right?
Exactly.
Those don't give you fat-free milk. So again, eating foods
Yeah.
in the whole form, really you get all of the nutrients in the way that your body can best assimilate them. And again, that's what I believe.
Right.
That's what I see work with my patients, and that's what I see
Mhm.
work with myself. And again, we're not static, right? We are fluid
Right.
beings. Things change. What works for us at some points that may shift and not work for us.
Hmm.
I'd give you a supplement to take. I'm not telling you to take it for the rest of your life. I'm saying let's take it for a few months and see how that impacts our lab values,
Yes.
how you feel. Things are not meant to be forever. So I think we have to give ourselves the grace to be human and change, um, and allow ourselves to really, like we were saying before, just really tune into what our bodies do need.
Hmm. Let me ask you a question, Dr. Cicerone. If I were to come to your office as a new patient, how do you determine what my body needs or what's going to help my gut get healthy?
That's
Because I
actually
am coming, by the way.
no, I mean, I think
Heads
that's a
up.
great question. Um, Look, we have to use the closest thing we have to a crystal ball.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that's usually lab work. So when you come into Spark Health, the first appointment with you and your doctor is not giving you a billion recommendations. It's having an appointment where we really get to know each other.
Mhm.
You get to know me as a doctor, you get to know our practice, I get to know you as a patient, and I find out all the things about you that contribute to your health. It's not just what medications and supplements you take. It's not just what your cholesterol value is. It's everything else that contributes to who we are as people, that it
Mm.
impacts our health. So
Yes.
that it's a pretty in-depth visit where we're really getting to know each other. We're talking about our health goals and challenges. We're talking about things we've done in the past that have worked and not worked. We're talking about our family history and other
Ah.
genetic issues we might have concern with. Um, we're talking about nutrition. We're talking about our stress, our energy, our sleep, right? Everything that makes us who we are as people and how we function day to day, we're talking about that. Then, depending on what each person's goals are and what they're wanting to figure out, what their
Mhm.
symptom picture looks like, we decide which labs to run. We have tons of different labs that we can do. We do all of our, blood work. We have stool testing. We have breath testing for the small intestine.
Mm.
We have neurotransmitter testing that you and I have talked about before, looking at our brain
Yes.
chemistry. We
Yes.
have micronutrient deficiencies. We have food sensitivities. They're all different things we can look at. But again, not every patient needs the same test.
Right.
And not every patient needs all of those tests. So you're really working with your doctor to determine, with your health challenges and goals in mind and your symptom picture, which tests of our library of tests that we can do, which ones will give us the answers that we're looking for. And look, we have to delineate too, because we can't say, well, you've got, these 10 big complaints. We're going to fix all these 10 things at once. We have to be methodical. We have to be strategic.
Right.
We have to decide what order do we want to go in that really makes the most sense physiologically.
Mm-hmm.
So then we would decide which tests we run. When we get those tests back, we come back together. We have another meeting. We sit down. We go through all of the results with the actual meaning behind the test. How many times have you had a test done with your primary care doctor where it says, oh, everything looks good? You
Yeah.
get a piece of paper and you don't, I mean,
All
it's
the time.
Latin, right?
Right. Or
um,
I don't hear anything. It's just you're fine.
Yes, exactly. So we want our patients to understand, right? Knowledge is power. We want everyone to understand these are what your values mean. These are the things that look beautiful. These are fantastic. These are the things that need work. And this is how we're going to address that. And we put together our treatment plan in a way where when you're, recommended a supplement or a medication, you know exactly why you're taking it, you know what time frame you're taking it for, and you know what actionable steps we're taking to then check that it's making a difference, right?
Yes.
So
Wow. So
it's
basically,
a process.
those of us who buy our supplements, even if they're good ones, and we haven't had any kind of testing, we may be wasting our money or maybe even doing harm to our bodies. Is that correct?
Well, it might not be what your body needs.
Yeah.
I could have 10 people come into my office complaining of, fatigue. The reasons for their fatigue, there could be 10 different reasons. And so I can't
Sure.
give a blanket prescription. I have to figure out what's going on and how to address it.
Yes.
Is it the
Yes.
gut? Is it thyroid? Is it adrenal health, right? There's so many different things that can be
Mm,
contributory. We have to know where the issue lies so we know how to address it. And the way that we find that out is by doing lab work.
got it. That's so important. And I'm so glad we're explaining that to people because I don't think everybody realizes that. I think a lot of people think if you're eating right and you're taking your supplements, you're good. And then
Yeah.
if things keep happening that aren't so wonderful, you're not sure why, but oh well.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you about probiotics versus prebiotics. Because I've always heard, well, the way to really make sure your gut is healthy is take those probiotics. Then along come prebiotics, and I'm not even really sure what the difference is.
So prebiotic fiber you can get from a lot of different foods. Common ones that my patients love are like jicama and artichokes, things like that.
Ah,
But both are important for a healthy gut. But again, I like to know what's happening in our gut, right? So
yes.
I'm a geek, admittedly. I love science, I love data, I do what I do. If there's something that we can test and
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what the makeup of our gut looks like, why wouldn't we do that? Why would we be guessing what your gut
Right.
needs rather than finding out? So what I love about, the stool testing that we can do is it's not just looking for infectious bad things, right? So much of the testing that you would do in a conventional practice is, is there salmonella or shigella or E. coli? Are these infectious organisms that should not be there?
Right.
We're looking at, where does the balance lie in your gut? Where are the good bacteria? Where are the kind of so mid ground? And are there any bacteria that might be normal in smaller, lower growth, but when they grow out of control can pose a problem?
Right.
So on the stool test, we have a bacteriology culture, which shows us your good beneficial bacteria. It shows us your
Oh.
bifidobacteria and your lactobacillus, and it shows us how much you have of those. So then
Mm.
we can say, oh gosh, you've got great bifidobacterium. but really low lactobacillus. So let's leave that bifidobacterium alone where it is, and let's try to raise up that lactobacillus and then see where we're at.
Ah,
So
I see.
the probiotics and prebiotics are beneficial, absolutely. Those good bacteria help us digest and break down food and give us protection, but it's helpful to know where those levels are so we know exactly how to help feed your gut and colonize in the appropriate way.
Yes.
And it's also super important to know, gosh, is there something that really shouldn't be there at that growth? Is there something that might be overgrowing that shouldn't be there, that's crowding out the ability of those good bacteria to be there? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you have bacteria that are not desirable, putting in those good bacteria isn't doing a whole lot, right? If you have a
Right.
garden that's overgrown with weeds, just
Mhm.
putting down grass seed and planting flowers doesn't make those weeds go away. So it's
Yes.
all about balance in general, right? It's not just about taking a supplement, it's about finding out what's happening internally and then helping to balance that.
You know, Dr. Cicerone, as I feared, this is going by way too fast. But before we run out of time, I have to ask you, because we're all hearing the term leaky gut these days. What exactly is a leaky gut?
So leaky gut, it's a super common thing that people talk about. Um, I call it intestinal permeability. It's a symptom of something else going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I think about the lining of our gut. It should be like a 1970s shag carpet, right? It should be lush and fluffy. It should be able to catch all of those nutrients and have those absorbed into the lining of our GI tract.
Mm.
What can happen though is that we can actually, instead of a shag carpet, kind of turn into a hardwood floor or even like a metal grate where
Oh,
those nutrients are just leaking through the walls of our GI
oh,
tract. So they're not being absorbed and they're not being utilized.
got it.
So we have to look at, well, what's causing that permeability? Is it that we're eating foods that are causing a lot of irritation and inflammation in the gut? Is it high antibiotic use or a history of antibiotic use? There are all different things that can contribute to that. Can it be bacterial overgrowth in areas of the gut with bacteria that should not be there?
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at what could be leading to that issue, dealing with the cause of it, and then
Got it.
bringing in things that can heal up the lining of that gut. So it's a common word that's thrown around, but again,
Yes.
if you're just focusing on the lining of the gut without focusing on kind of the triggers, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get as an effective as an outcome.
All right. So I need an agreement from you. We are not going to be able to get to the whole integrative support of cancer patients, which I think is a great topic. Will you come back next month?
Absolutely.
Oh, that would be so great. And please, because I know if I were listening to this right now, I would certainly want to know how to get a hold of you or Spark Health or, to find out and get myself. In fact, I am going to get a hold of
Are
that
going
and find out how to get my gut on track. So, can you give your contact information, please, Dr.
to.
Cicerone?
So our website is mysparkhealth.com, and our phone number is 858-228-4188. You can look on our website. It's in the process of being redone, so give us a little
Okay.
leeway there, but just call the clinic. We have a great team of people that can answer all of your questions, get you set up for an appointment, pair you with a doctor that's going to be a good fit for you. We have a number of great naturopathic doctors. We all work really collaboratively. We meet about our patients on a regular basis. We talk about all of our patient care cases. So
Oh,
we're really
fabulous.
actually getting, many
Yes.
minds for the price of one.
Well, thank you for your amazing mind and all that you've offered us today, Dr. Cicerone. And I will see you again next month.
Okay, thanks so much,
All
Paula.
right, take care. And please stay tuned. We're about to do our gut buster. No, but Rut Busters. Oh, my daughter's going to kill me. It's a new segment, and I keep going senile on it.
Your brain is all in the gut right now. That's
That's
why.
it. See, that's why. Thank you for, and that was a doctor who said that. I have a pass. Okay, we'll be right back with Aaron Shaw. Thank you, Dr. Cicerone. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. And you are about to be part of our Rut Busters segment with my daughter, Erin Shaw, who, as you all know, is not only my daughter, she's an amazing musician, singer, and writer, and the creator of our Rut Busters segment, which we are doing now because we all got in kind of a rut during COVID. And we thought it would be kind of fun to encourage everybody and challenge everybody to shake it up. So, welcome, honey.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? How's it going?
I'm actually very good today. Really good.
Yeah,
Woke
it's
up
been a minute.
even before my alarm clock this morning.
Wow.
And I just loved, I don't know if you got to see the show before we brought you on, but Dr. Aliza Cicerone of Spark Health here in Solana Beach was my guest today. And she's so brilliant and she has so many great things to share. We were talking about gut health, and I wanted to ask her about keto, and I didn't get to, but she's coming back next month. So we'll get in there when we see her next.
That's what I've been doing the last few weeks because I have some gigs coming up and realized that none of my gig dresses fit anymore after COVID times when I was
the
wearing
quarantine 15. Huh?
I was only wearing soft pants for about a year. So now I know better. You got to put those jeans on like at least once a month just to make sure you're good in that regard.
That's
or,
funny.
or just have a budget to buy new clothes, which,
Yeah. Which you don't really want to do because then they're big clothes anyway. So
I mean, I'd rather just spend that money on a vacation, to be honest. So
amen, sister.
Yeah, I'm not going to shame my body, but I certainly, it's expensive to buy a new wardrobe. So anyway, we're back with Rut Busters. And would you like to tell your audience what happened with the last challenge?
Well, unbeknownst to you, I actually did it this morning.
Down to the wire.
Yes, I have to confess that earlier this morning, I had said to Aaron, well, let's remind him what the last challenge was because the last couple of weeks you've been out of town.
Yeah.
So the last challenge, go ahead, you tell them.
The last challenge was to reach out by phone to someone you hadn't connected with in a while. Mm-hmm. And by the way, to all your listeners and viewers, I would still encourage you to do that if you haven't.
Amen. And so I had certain people in mind that I really want to do that with. However, I went camping with my daughter, had an amazing time, and we had a family Easter, and my daughter got her wisdom teeth out and is healing miraculously.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I had a little bit of slight bruising yesterday on the one side, but otherwise.
Look at her face. It hasn't even been it's been 5 days, honey?
Yeah. Well, it was last Thursday.
5 days. When I had my wisdom teeth out, I looked like a chipmunk for, it seemed like a month. And look at you. Though I have to say, because those of you who know me know how I love those LifeWave patches. And I put...
Shameless plug alert.
The shameless plug alert. I put the anti-inflammatory patches on her the minute we got her home from the dentist and the stem cell patch.
I looked like a scientific experiment.
She did. The girl was covered. And a little glutathione I think we had on also.
Yeah, I looked like I was hooked up to like numerous monitors or something with the little... Anyway, all right. So
who spared no patches.
How did it go?
This morning, just before I started the show, I reconnected with Anne Marie Osborne, my dear friend of many, many years, who I think I've spoken to only once since COVID began.
Wow.
But we certainly haven't spoken in months. However, I'm also making the commitment that in addition to whatever other challenge you have for me this week, I remember my dearest friend who helped me actually create Chakras, the Magnificent Seven, Kathy Gian Gregorio, has a birthday on April 12th. I can't believe I remember that. But my intention is going to be to reach out to Kathy this week. So I'm adding on to whatever the challenge is.
Oh, I love that. Well, you have to tell her hi from me. I haven't talked to her in a while, but I talked to her daughter on social media every once in a while, Andrea.
Oh,
So,
good. Yes, you guys actually
good.
grew up together.
Keep that. That's a great challenge, and I love it. This week's challenge is it's an easy one. I'm going to give you a break because I know the last one was a little stressful.
Bless you,
We're
honey.
down to the wire there.
I am enjoying my bird hobby, though. That's going well.
Good.
Costing me a fortune because the word got out in the neighborhood, and now I got birds coming from. You can't even believe. I mean, I have a big feeder, and it's like empty every day.
Yeah, you should start singing "Feed the Birds Tuppence a Bag,"
Yeah.
Mary Poppins.
I know. I feel like Snow White or Mary Poppins or somebody.
Yeah. All right. So here's your challenge for this week. You ready?
Okay, ready.
Okay. Your challenge for this week is to listen to either a musical artist or an album, not musical theater, just like a musician. It could mean it could be musical theater. It's to either listen to an artist you've always wanted to listen to and have never made the time for, or an album / record, of, music that you've always wanted to listen to or have never. For me, I'm going to be doing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon because that's one that like I always tell people I've heard all the way through. That's a lie. I've only listened to the beginning, the part that goes with the Wizard of Oz or whatever. But I would like to listen to that entire album because I think that's something I should do, So that's your challenge for this week. And it could be like a musician you've heard of, like, oh, everybody really likes that band, blah, blah, blah. I should give that a try. Oh, I always wanted to listen to the Beatles' White Album and I never got around to it. That's the challenge for this week for you and your listeners.
Okay, so I just had to back up for a minute. Pink Floyd is connected with the Wizard of Oz?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a deep cut. So there was someone who said if you started Dark Side of the Moon with the beginning of the Wizard of Oz, this is on the internet, you could Google it. I think it's Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. No, it's not Led Zeppelin. It's Pink Floyd. So if you start Dark Side of the Moon at the beginning of Wizard of Oz and you mute the movie and you just watch the screen while listening to the record, it's like an experience. I'm sure it's on YouTube. You probably could just find it. I'll see if I can find it. And if I do, we can share it on your Facebook page if people want to see it.
Yes.
But I think it's pretty cool. It's like an interactive experience. And I think they've actually done like concert version type thing, or I don't know, maybe you can see it at like a Hollywood Forever Cemetery or something where they pair the movie with the album. But anyway, that's the lore. So I'll report back.
Boy, that's pretty wild. I have never heard that one in all my years.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm sure at some point in time I've heard some Pink Floyd music, but I couldn't pick it out to save my life.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty mellow. I mean, it's kind of ambient sounding,
Mm-hmm.
I think Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, there are just some of those bands from that era that they were just like super far out and chill. And you've probably heard a lot of it and don't know you have.
Mm-hmm.
There were also a lot of like one-hit wonders in that era. When we were at Easter with our family, you know this, but we were listening to some songs and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know who this band was because they only had one. We were listening to like classic rock. They only had like one popular song and then I have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. You say that. And I'm thinking maybe the reason for that is, back in the day, there was Dick Clark's Top 40. There were people would get a song and that would be played over and over again. They'd be known for their song, but I'm not sure there was the same emphasis on albums.
That came later. That started with, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Beatles had one of the first concept albums. This is a great tangent. I could talk about this all day. Abbey Road is said to be one of the first concept albums where the tracks all run together and it tells a unique story. That's much more common in modern day music now, but that started in the 60s. Yeah.
Yes. And I almost think now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking about Taylor Swift, you almost don't release a song until it's part of a whole album. Is that true?
No, people still release singles. I think you're thinking of the last two Taylor Swift albums that came out during quarantine. They just dropped the whole thing surprise.
Right.
Some artists do that. Beyonce's done that too. I think I can't remember who else, but that's become the new thing where artists will like create an album in secret because now everyone has their own recording equipment. You hardly need a studio anymore, and people will just like surprise drop their albums. But yes, the old way was to release a single and then get people excited and then later on release
create an album.
Yeah, so I think now there's a little bit of both, but musicians are definitely a lot more innovative and creative with how they produce and release their music now. Just in the age of technology, it's kind of cool.
So, speaking of technology, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
If we encourage our listeners, would they be able to put in the posts, because we'd like to hear how these things go with you guys, could they actually post a little bit of the music they're listening to this week that they never have heard before?
It depends on the platform. Instagram doesn't really allow for links in your comments, but on Facebook, people could leave a comment with like a Spotify link or an Apple Music link or YouTube, however you're listening to music, of the song that they were listening to or the album they were listening to. Because I would love to know like who are the sleeper hits that you've just never gotten to, you know?
Yes. So that's your challenge, guys. You find something new to listen to this week, too. And we want to hear about it. So please interact with us. We have a Change It Up Radio Facebook page, a Change It Up Radio Instagram page. We've got a YouTube channel. You know, we're out there. We're on every major podcast platform. And you can hear us at 9 o'clock on Sunday evenings on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM in San Diego. So until next week, thank you all for being with us. Darling, as usual, it's always great to see you. Love the natural hair, by the way. Very pretty.
Thanks.
Looks really good.
You know.
Don't you hate women that have hair like that naturally? Oh, I can't hate you. You're my daughter. All right, everybody. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next week on Change It Up Radio. Bye-bye.